You ready to beat your bookmaker? Well, then it's time to follow the model. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Follow the Model podcast. I'm your host, Colin Thaw, founder of ThawBall, and as always, we have the architect of the model on the line. Gates, how you doing?
We're doing great. We're riding the Michigan wave. We took that into last week, had a 4-2 week, and we're going to keep building. We're riding that. We're riding some great futures that we still have in play. Just all around great times. We're loving it.
Love it. Yeah, let's go back to last week, the wild card round of the playoffs. You were feeling good about the model, and it bore fruit in the first round of the playoffs. Started super hot. Saturday, 2-0. We were talking about a 13-0 undefeated run through the playoffs. It was not to be, though, because of those Dallas Cowboys doing what they always do. Dak and the boys, epic choke job. Nothing the model can do about that. I mean, unless you put some kind of choke factor into the numbers. Maybe next year you might have to. What do you got to say about last week?
Like you said, started off really hot, 2 pretty easy wins, really felt great about both of those. And I knew going into the game that, the Cowboys always choke. I think just next year, it's just, you got to stay away. I don't care what the model says. You got to stay away. This is what this franchise is. I knew it going in, but just kind of threw my hands up and said, that can't really be a reason again, can it? But of course it did. Both Dak and McCarthy. I can't believe they brought back McCarthy for another season. As a Giants fan, it made me smile ear to ear. That team, mark my words, will never, ever even get to a Super Bowl, let alone win it. It's an absolute joke. But moving on from there, the Bills game got moved to Monday. So the Bills had a really nice win as well. Got a little nervous at the end with the cover, but they pulled through. I think they showed their true colors. We knew that Mason Rudolph was going to be in trouble. And really the only reason that game actually was close to covering was the Bills got decimated on defense. I mean, their entire linebacker core is out. And that's a little preview into this week. But they are struggling on defense with all those injuries. And the Rudolph started finally moving the ball there in the second half. Then, the couple last games, the Rams came through for us and covered that 3.5. It was really a close game. I think that was kind of what we thought, right? It was a coin flip game. Could have gone either way, and that's why we wanted to take the 3.5. Rams easily could have won that game. It was really the Lions D made some crucial stops in the red zone, and the Lions ended up scoring touchdowns. That was really the difference. And then the Eagles, these NFC East teams, the Eagles I will say the Eagles are the one team the model could not figure out. I mean, we talked about the Jets and the Falcons, but in terms of teams that actually, there's no explanation for this. I don't think we've ever really seen a team that coming off a Super Bowl went 10-1 and looked pretty dominant, looked like the same exact team as last year. And then for no true rhyme or reason, just completely collapsed. It's hard to put a finger on and to understand why, besides maybe some locker room chemistry issues or something going on. Maybe Jalen Hurts was banged up, but it's hard to say exactly what happened here. I mean, that was just an awful collapse, and the Bucs didn't look good at all. I mean, that Eagles team, it was atrocious by the end. That was one of the worst 5 teams in the league just from an eye test. So again, another preview to this week that I think the Bucs are the worst team left in the playoffs, and we're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, you said it. It boggles the mind what happened to Philly, and that's my thought too, is something had to be going on in that locker room. Sirianni always felt like kind of didn't have the whole feel of the locker room, but success papers over a lot of those issues. And once things started to go bad, it doesn't feel like he's the guy in charge that you want. He's kind of, I don't know if you saw the GIF that went viral again of Hurts being like, dude, like calm down. Like when he's just like mocking other teams and being like a joke and not very professional. So yeah, saw that. One other thing I wanted to say was in that Chiefs game, we talked about it offline just from the opening kickoff. I mean, the cold, everyone talked about it beforehand, but McDaniels showing up like the Michelin Man covered in 19 layers. I mean, come on, man.
You can't be the coach of the Miami Dolphins when all that talk's going on. And Andy Reid's got full face out. He's got the walrus icicle mustache going. Just the personification of toughness in a football guy. Meanwhile, Mike McDaniels has got to show the toughness, and he's bundled up. You can barely see his eyes. The second I saw that, I knew it was over. That Miami team was cooked. They could not handle that environment. Tua literally looked like he was a standing frozen popsicle and couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards. So it was an absolute joke from the start. That team didn't have a shot.
Yeah, it was. I saw that. I'm like, it's almost time to double those units on this one once they came out of the tunnel. But yeah, so last week, overall, a great week, especially would have been epic if not for those NFC East joke teams, Cowboys and Eagles. The rest, though, were pretty easy wins. Even that Rams one, they didn't win, but like you said, pretty easy cover, and they had so many opportunities. So we move on to the divisional round. There's only 4 games. As of now, you're thinking you're only going to play 3. That can always change to play all 4. As you know, that's what the model backers want and need, but you're not going to lead them into somewhere where you don't have the confidence. The first game, you're most confident, you touched on already. It's those Detroit Lions. Even though that Rams game was close, their fans deserved it. Come on. It's been 33 years. They deserve to win. They got to win. And now they're favored by 6.5. Model called it at 5.5. It's now 6.5 as they're at home taking on Tampa Bay.
Yeah, a couple things there. Of course, we try to give as many plays as we can in the playoffs. So other plays in the regular season where we might hold back in the playoffs, we let it rip as often as we can. So we gave all 6 games last week. We'll try to give all 4 this week, but like you said, it might only end up being 3 because, we're not going to pick it if it's right on the line. Talking about this game for a second, I was really impressed by the Lions. I think both of those teams were phenomenal. To me, they're clearly the second and third best teams in the NFC after the 49ers. They really showed a lot on both sides of the ball, especially on offense. I think that Rams team, I was ready to ride. I had a future on them. They looked really, really good, like we talked about. It was a coin flip game. Meanwhile, these Bucs, the Eagles were so bad, and they were still somehow in that game, like only down a touchdown in the second half. And let's not forget how bad the Bucs were the previous 2 weeks against the Panthers, only scoring 9 points, basically getting shut out against the Saints at home. These games have also been on the road. I'm not counting the Panthers game, a team that just got the first pick in the NFL draft. All right. So now they have to go on the road. Everyone's already talked about how loud that Detroit environment is. Baker is not going to be ready. He's just not going to be ready. The Detroit defense, yes, Matt Stafford threw for 350, but they buckled down in the red zone. And that's all they're going to need to do here is buckle down in the red zone. I don't think Baker gets anywhere near 350, but they just need to buckle down in the red zone. And I think this Detroit offense is really going to get going against Tampa Bay. They're going to control the game. It's really a team I really believe in at home with those fans in that environment versus a team that's kind of just happy to be here. And everyone was talking about last week, the NFC South is going to show itself. They were 9-8 in the worst division in football, yada, yada, yada. Now that they got that win, I'm not hearing that at all this week. It's going to come to show itself this week. And everyone's going to say, these are the Bucs. This is the NFC South that we all thought we were getting. And the Lions are going to win a pretty easy one here. I say 10 points or more for sure.
Yeah, and what a sound for sore ears for those Lions faithful. They deserve it. And the team is fun to watch. The coach is so entertaining. And yeah, as football fans, forget model backers. We just want that team to stay in the playoffs. And the model, thankfully, backs up that desire. And let's ride with Man Campbell and the boys in Detroit. Moving on, it's the Chiefs-Bills rematch of that epic playoff game a couple years ago. We got what we wanted in this matchup. It's Patty Mahomes' first road playoff game ever. Seems impossible, but when you dominate the AFC West for as long as they dominated, going 13-3 and whatever for as many years, always getting that 1 or 2 seed. This is his first road game. He's going to Buffalo. They're getting a lot of more snow this week. It's looking like game day is going to be okay, but the Chiefs are getting 3. You can still grab that line on PointsBet to take on the Bills.
Patty's getting a field goal. I mean, when Patty gets a field goal, you got to take a long, hard look and say, what's going on here? Why is that? And we just got to grab that in a game that probably will be close. I mean, getting that 3 points is huge. It's monumental. And Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback alive. He's shown it for the last few years. There's no question about it. And more importantly, his defense is way better than the Buffalo defense. That's the key factor here. I should say there's two key factors, but that's the biggest one to me by far, is the health, especially on defense. The Chiefs D is really locked in right now. And I think they're going to really cause Josh Allen some trouble. They're going to at least be able to, keep him in check, keep him to field goals, hold it really tight. And on the other side of the coin, the Bills fans got to be worried because they got decimated. They were already missing their best linebacker all season. So, let's start with Matt Milano. Matt Milano was the captain, key of that defense. He went down early this season as one of the best linebackers. Then really the guy who stepped up was Terrell Dotson. He missed last week. We'll see if he can come back, but they were down him. Then their other two linebackers went down last week as well. So they literally had all backups at linebacker. Their corner, Rasul Douglas, missed last week. They had another two injuries in Christian Benford, and one of the other corners went down last week as well. So, I mean, besides their D-line, the entire back seven is on backups right now. Now we'll see who's going to play, who's not going to play, but looking at the initial injury reports, a lot of those guys were DNPs, did not participate in the initial practices. I mean, it's a shit show going against Patty Mahomes. Don't forget another key here, no one's talking about. They played on Monday. The Chiefs played on Saturday. That's an additional 2 days rest for the Chiefs. Talk about a stage the Chiefs aren't going to be scared in, a veteran team. Rashee Rice is breaking out now. He was playing like a rookie first half of the season. Now he's broken out. He's playing like I won't call him a vet, but he's playing like a guy who's solidified his role and is really starting to show you what he can do. And I have a sneaking suspicion that they've been kind of saving Travis Kelce these last 4 to 6 weeks. And he's ready to break out. He was traveling all over the world middle of the season, going here, going there, drinking the night before a game. I think he's locked in now. It's playoff time. He's a veteran. He knows what it takes. He knows he's got to go 3 more games and lock in and get it done. And I love this play. I love this play. Getting 3 with everything I just said. I think you got to love it. And the offensive line is the last key. I think they have a slight edge on the offensive line as well, the Chiefs. So, I mean, all around, I'm not really understanding why they're getting a full 3. They should be closer to a pick 'em.
Yeah, and Kelce is more than due to break out, right? It's been long enough with that offense just being very mediocre all season. It's been interesting, but when push comes to shove, Mahomes in the playoffs against a banged-up defense, you think that offense is going to do what they need to do to win, especially because the makeup of this Chiefs team, like you said, is different than the past Mahomes years where they had to rely so much on the offense. It's a dominant defense, straight-up dominant defense. And,
by far the best he's had, by far.
Which is interesting, right? You almost rather that, I think, as a Chiefs fan, because when you need to make a play, ultimately you have faith in Mahomes to make a play, regardless of what weapons are around him. And like you said, he does have weapons still. Rice, Kelce, Pacheco playing well. So it's not like they're bereft of weapons on the offense side.
And he's fully healthy, unlike last year when he was doing this all on one leg, right? So
right.
I mean, he got it. He's got everything going for him right now. I think they get past the Bills and probably have a great showdown matchup with the Ravens in the championship game.
Gotcha. Before we get to those Ravens, let's go to the dominant team on the NFC side of the ball. Both 1 seeds have a similar point spread. The Niners are favored by 9.5 at home, taking on the red hot. I'm loving it. Jordan Love and the Packers.
He's been impressive. Second half of the season, he's been a completely different guy. You got to give them all the props in the world. They weren't scared. They went out and took care of business. Obviously, it could have been more clear that the Cowboys were shitting their pants and the Packers were playing with house money. I mean, I've never seen a game where it was so clear that was the situation and the stakes. Now, I think this is, I don't like to give Bill Simmons too much credit because I think a lot of times he kind of talks out of his ass, but I'm going to give him some credit with this theory that he's come up with. And it's be a little careful of the team that looked, dominant or too good in round 1 of the playoffs going into round 2. And I think that's exactly what we have here in the Packers, where everyone, I mean, it was a fantastic performance. You got to give it the performance of the week, going to Dallas, going up 28-0, absolutely dominating. But now the Niners are waiting, and they've been getting fully healthy. And a mere 4 weeks ago, everyone was like, this is the most dominant team we've seen in the last 4 years, until they had that loss at against the Ravens, right? Everyone was talking about this team as they can't be stopped, both sides of the ball, X, Y, and Z. The talk's a lot lower on them now after that Ravens game. But this team is still for real. I mean, they are still a juggernaut. Don't forget the bye, the fact that they have the extra week of rest. And Green Bay is now their second road game in a row because week 18, they had to travel to Chicago and they had to get that win in Chicago. So back-to-back road games now coming in for yet another road game in a row, right? I just think that, the situation and the circumstances there are just there. It just sets up too perfectly for the Niners, especially getting under 10 points. You got to think that Shanahan's going to carve up Joe Barry. I mean, he's going to slice and dice them, especially with extra time to prepare. Like I said, they're fully healthy. I think this is a rout. I think the Niners put up a number here. The Packers' love story is over, but for them, they're going to be happy, right? This is all they could have ever hoped for in year one of Jordan Love. I think it works out perfectly for both sides. The Niners march on.
Yeah, youngest team in the NFL, Green Bay, plenty to take away, even with a loss in the divisional round to San Francisco. And one thing about that last game against the Cowboys is they won the coin flip. They chose to get the ball. They drove right down the field, scored a touchdown, and then they never were trailing and never was tied after that. So it's just a huge weight off your shoulders in the playoffs, playing from the lead. And you got to think with this Niners offense, with McCaffrey, Purdy playing the way he did all year, that at some point the Niners are going to have the lead, right? And then we'll really see what the Packers are made of. So what you said makes all the sense in the world. The other side, the other dominant team, as many think, we're marching towards that Ravens-Niners Super Bowl matchup. But can the Stroud boys put a stop to it? And we're in Baltimore. Ravens are giving 9.5.
Yeah, I'm not happy personally that these teams have to play each other because these are like my two teams that I've been riding all season. I got big futures on both of them, so I'll be good either way. I got a big one on the Texans. Got a number at 190-1 that I locked in at some point during the season. So, got to obviously hope for that, but also got a big one on the Ravens as well. Similar story, with the Texans as I just talked about with the Packers, although not quite the same because the Texans were at home last week, right? And I think, CJ Stroud has proven out to be like you can say he's a top 5 quarterback almost already. Like that's how well he's playing and how he's looking. Noah Brown does go down for them. That hurts as the wide receiver 2 after they lost Tank Dell. So, you got to be a little bit worried about that. And really on the injury side on defense now, they have a ton of – their entire defensive line is questionable and hasn't been practicing all week. Literally, they got 4 of them. Jerry Hughes missed last game. The rest of the guys played, but after that game, they're all questionable. So with all those guys down, they're already missing Jimmy Ward. They're missing Tavier Thomas in the secondary. This Ravens team is ready to go. If not now, then when, right? I will say this game does scare me with the points a bit. I think the Ravens have shown us time and time again they can be a team that kind of plays with their food a bit and gets the win, but like makes it closer than it should have been and doesn't always get the style points. So for all those reasons and with the model spitting out, it's not showing a ton of value with this line. Although it has creeped up from 8.5 to 9.5. I think that's because of the Texans injuries I mentioned. But we'd love to kind of get a good game here. I might stay away from this one because of everything I just said, even though I think the Ravens are primed to just break out and kind of dominate. Could also see CJ Stroud just putting up an A+ performance and willing his team to at least keep this game somewhat close. So we will see. The one thing I'll also mention, Ravens should be fully healthy. Only got to watch is Marlon Humphrey. Been a bit banged up. We'll see if he's going to play. And I actually think they get Mark Andrews back for this one, who's been out for like 6 weeks. So looks like he's returning. Who knows in what role and how. But of course, you get a guy like Mark Andrews back. That's a huge boost.
Yeah, big boost for the Ravens, and they got the health factor on their side. But that's a TBD according to the model. So stay close on the Substack. Stay close on X to see if that's official. That's an official play as the first game of the divisional round on Saturday. So those are the 4 games. Those are the plays. The model looks to stay hot and continue its season-long run on the season, 51-46, plus 14.5 units. And Gates, anything else you want to leave the fans with?
That's it. I think we got some great matchups this week. We'll see if, there might be a couple of blowouts in there with the Packers, with the Niners and the Ravens. So we'll see what that happens. But I mean, the Chiefs-Bills game, what more could you ask for, right? I mean, how many times have these guys, suited up against each other in the playoffs? Love to see it again. The Patty and Josh Allen rivalry continues. Been one-sided the entire history. We think that continues again this year. It's great. Can't ask for more. Let's get the model rolling. Michigan's rolling. Couldn't ask for anything more. Best time of the year.
Can't ask for anything more except let's get some good games on Sunday and let's go 4-0. This was the Follow the Model podcast, and we're signing off.